Hey, this is Jo Fairley from the Perfume Society, and we have something really exciting for you today. We have Richard E. Grant, amazing Oscar-nominated actor, with Nail, memorably, and many other sensational characters who we adore. And he also, which is why he's coming now, here he comes. Any second now. Cue drum roll. Hello!
Hi.
How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. Yeah, we had so many questions. You're clearly a very popular man, Richard.
Oh, thank you.
But today, we're going to talk about perfume, because I happen to know that that is a subject very close to your heart. I will have you know that I wore patriotic Jack colours for you. Good to have a bit of red, white and blue in the wardrobe.
Thank you.
But first of all, let me just ask you, because you have to ask, in the current world situation, how have you been? You've been mostly in character as Withnail, as far as I can tell, from your Instagram.
Well, what happened is somebody tweeted me at the beginning of lockdown and said, could you do a reading of one of the Withnail lines? And they asked for it, so I did that. And then it snowballed and I became a kind of human jukebox over the last 3 months, because every day people said, could you do this line? So I obliged and did that. So.
Well, you've kept the nation very entertained, but you seem to crack up immediately afterwards. That's the thing.
Well, I found those lines. It's the only script I've ever remembered of anything that I've ever done. So I still remember the whole script off by heart. And because they're amused, I find them genuinely funny. So I found it hard to do them and not crack up, apart from the final Hamlet soliloquy. Anyway.
And you've been at home in Richmond. Is that where you've been?
No, I've been in the Cotswolds for the last 3 months because of my wife and I, because of our vast combined vintage. We've got to as far away from people as possible.
Okay. So
that's where I still am.
And we've had a glorious spring, and I'm sure you've enjoyed every petal of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Never, the warmest, hottest, driest spring on record. So
I know.
From a gardening point of view and olfactory senses, it's been absolutely astonishing.
What are your favourite garden smells? What do you like out there?
Oh, there's almost nothing I don't like, but my favourite scent of any flower that I grew up with in Africa is a gardenia.
Yeah.
So you have to grow them, under very controlled conditions in England, because they don't like the cold.
No.
But the scent of them is absolutely hypnotic, it's the one that you've never been able to extract that.
No.
And put it, all the gardenia that's for sale is synthetic.
Yeah, it's got a kind of really dirty smell to it. I mean, I put one in my greenhouse a few weeks ago, and it hits you in the face every time you go in. But it's really kind of, quite sexy and naughty.
Absolutely.
You shared your memories, dreams, and reflections with us back in the second issue of the Scented Letter, which is like 6 years ago. So, when did your perfume journey actually start? And what made you want to launch a fragrance?
Well, I'll try and make this brief. When I was 12 years old in 1969, living in Swaziland in Southeast Africa, I fell mad in love with an American, the first one that I'd ever met, called Betsy Clapp, with 2 P's. And she chewed gum and she spoke at 100 miles an hour. And I just thought that she was just everything. And I couldn't afford to buy her scent for her birthday with the pocket money that I had. So I then tried to boil rose petal and gardenia petals that I fleeced the garden of. put them in sugar water in jam jars, buried them for 2 weeks,
Oh,
hoping that by some magical osmosis they turn into fabulous perfume. Of course, they were just stink bombs. And so I'd always smelt everything in sight. And my father said, this is not what normal people do. And I said, well, we're all animals, and animals do that. So he couldn't really argue with that. Anyway, fast forward, 4 decades. I was on holiday in Mustique, and a fellow house guest, Anja Heinmarsh, the brilliant entrepreneur and handbag designer, saw me sniffing everything, and she said, are you going to do something about this? And I, with some embarrassment, said, what do you mean psychiatrically? And she said, no. Have you ever thought of making your own scent? I said, it's been my passion, my dream to do this. But I failed my maths at school, so I didn't know chemistry or physics. So I have no basis. She said, there are bean counters who know how to do all that, but your passion for this is unlike anything I've ever seen in anybody. So she gave me a list of 10 people to see who would guide me when I got back to London. And of course, as soon as I landed back at Heathrow in the middle of January, it was freezing cold, and I thought, it's like the equivalent of a holiday romance. Anyway, she called me up within half an hour, and she said, have you called so-and-so yet? And I said, no, but I'm going to. Anyway, long story short, I then met Marigay McKee, who was running the perfume department at Harrods. She put me in touch with Roger Dove, the brilliant perfumer. He did a whole olfactory test session with me, and he said, the person that you should go and see is Catherine Mitchell at IFF, International Flavors and Fragrances. I went and met her, and she said, is your name going to be on the box? Is it a celebrity scent? I said, no. She said, okay, sit down. I'll take you seriously. And Catherine and I then pitched this idea that I had to the buyers at Liberty.
yeah.
And they said they were looking for a unisex, bespoke British scent at this point in time in 2013. And they, just in describing what it was going to be, top notes of lime, marijuana, and mandarin, they said, we're in for this. And 6 months later, having worked with a brilliant nose in Paris called Aliénor Massimo,
Yes.
Who converted all my completely amateur ideas and mixtures into something that was not going to explode in a bottle and was exactly what I had imagined. It was then launched and won awards, and I had no idea that it would be as successful so quickly. And it was at Liberty's for a year, exclusively and online, and then subsequently Aspects of Beauty distribution company took it on, and it's now in boutique, small scale, very sort of tiny niche business, but you can get it in New York and Los Angeles and in various places around England, and a couple in Europe. And so I then launched Covent Garden the following year, then Jack Piccadilly 69, and an homage to 1969 story that I've just given you. And in the middle of COVID, I finally got Jack Richmond, which is in this red box. And because I've lived in Richmond for the last 30 years, it's an homage to Richmond and Richmond Park. So
Wonderful.
That's a very long answer to your short question.
No, absolutely. Well, we can dive into some of the fragrances a little bit more deeply. One of the questions, we had so many questions from our community, but one of the questions was about associating fragrance with a role, whether you would use scent to kind of help you get into a particular role.
Oh, yes.
So I mean, they particularly mentioned Sir Percy Blakeney from the Scarlet Pimpernel, who we loved, and Larry Lefferts. How would you go about finding, obviously before you had your own scent, how would you go about finding the right fragrance to be that character? Well,
there are two things that I approach every character that I play with. Firstly, I ask myself what their sex life is, but that's what I think of anybody that I meet for the first time. I think, what's turning this person on, and usually in connection with that, for obvious reasons, is what scent they would wear. So in the case of the Scarlet Pimpernel, because he had to lead this double life and could never be identified, I thought he should be the one character that would have no perfume scent whatsoever, so that he couldn't be detected anywhere. So against all my instincts, I decided not to use any scent when I was playing him.
Ah.
for that reason. But Larry Lefferts, who was this social gadfly and upper class gossip in turn of the century New York in this Scorsese's adaptation of Edith Wharton's Age of Innocence in 1991, I found a scent that I thought was very pungent and aggressive. So I wore that, and for the life of me, because I'm so old, I cannot remember the name of it right now, and I just don't want to give something else free advertising. So that's what I wore for that.
And for Withnail, am I right that there was a patchouli oil, and of course that then turns up in Jack.
It does. I used patchouli because that was such a late 60s signature scent anyway, and I then, when I was making Jack Piccadilly 69, that was entirely based on, I'd come to London on what was called home leave at that point in time, when I was 12, you know, in the midst of my Betsy Clapp obsession. And I can remember coming out of the tube in Piccadilly Circus, and the whole of Eros, all the fountain and all the steps around it were a kind of beehive of hippies, and the predominant scent was patchouli oil. And then there were petrol fumes, and my parents took me to have tea at Fortnum and Mason's down the road on Piccadilly. And there were leather banquettes, and they had a particular smell as well. So I put all of those things into Jack Piccadilly 69, which is really the closest homage to the Withnail character that I have in my perfume range.
Well, I'm going to tell you a funny story about patchouli, which is that my husband was responsible for the patchouli trend in London, because he had a...
So you're very rich.
Well, I wish.
Why not?
He had a natural food business, and he was an old hippie he sold brown rice, tamari, seaweed, and dookie beans, and the one non-food item on his price list was patchouli. And he wore it as an old hippie, and apparently this was embraced, but it was a secret signal, so that if you had a straight job but you had hippie leanings, you wore patchouli, and it was like an invisible messaging to the cool hippies that actually you were one of them. So Craig is entirely responsible for the scent around Eros of patchouli, I have to say.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, thank you. I love patchouli. So that was the first scent. And I mean, did you literally sit with Eleanor and say, these are my scent memories, now make them into something?
What I've done with all four perfumes, all four scents, is I have gone to Grasse in the south of France and got the essential oils and got actual raw ingredients like lime or moss or whatever, and sandalwood, and then I have mixed them together in my kitchen, you know, like a complete novice. And then when I have arrived at what is an approximation of what I want the professional version to smell like, I've then sent that to Eleanor in Paris, along with a mood board of pictures and experiences and personal references, so that she gets something practical as well as sort of in my head.
In your head, I was going to say, she gets inside your head. Yeah,
and then we work together, and she from the moment I met her in 2013, where I put marijuana, lime, mandarin, all these ingredients in a restaurant table, and I said, this is what I want the thing to smell like, and this is what I have in my head, and these are the essential oils that go with it. She then went away, and you know, we worked backwards and forth, very Jack. So that's how we've done it.
So that's how you've done it. And go on to tell me about the other. So sequentially, was it Covent Garden next?
Yeah, the lime marijuana mandarin top notes of Jack were the first one, and then the following year I did Covent Garden, because Covent Garden was traditionally where the fruit and flower market was up until 1973. You know, the sort of the feeding vegetable heart of flowers of London. My Fair Lady had been set there as well, which I had seen when I was a kid in the movies with Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
It was also the centre of the theatre district.
Yeah, it has the Actors' Church.
Absolutely. And Nell Gwynn, who was the mistress of King Charles II, had been an orange seller in Covent Garden, which was a euphemism for what, you know, ladies of the night did. So she sold oranges in Drury Lane, and then became his mistress, and then became a very famous light comedienne in the theatre. So she was the first female actor who became professional, because up until that point, all female parts in the theatre, you know, from Shakespeare onwards, had to be played by teenage men. Because of her being this orange seller thing, and I'd also been a waiter in Covent Garden at a place called Tutton's when I first got to England.
Oh wow!
In 1982.
I remember that.
All of these combination of scents, I thought, well, I want something that is fruit and vegetable in an homage to Covent Garden. So the top notes were orange, ginger, rose, and iris.
Right.
So that was the reason for that.
And did you used to go, have you ever been to Covent Garden when it was in Covent Garden? Do you remember the market?
I do, yes. When I was 12 years old, I was there in 1969. I remember it very, very clearly, because it was, you know, they started very, very early in the morning, and the smell of vegetables and flowers combined is something that is unique.
Yeah, and there's an amazing dampness to it as well, that sort of mossy dampness. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and then the next one, Piccadilly, which...
The next one is Piccadilly, which I just, you know, 10 minutes ago, I gave you all the backstory of that. Came to London when I was 12 years old. A combination of petrol, patchouli, leather, all of those things went into that.
And then Richmond, which has been your home, and, you know, is a wonderful corner of London. Home to the magnificent Peacham Nurseries, where you once helped me set the table for a dinner for the Soil Association. Thank you very much. Proper gent you were, I have to say.
Thank you.
And very, very nicely lined up knives and forks, as I recall.
I've been trained. Gosford Park, you see.
So what's gone into Richmond?
Everything about the park: moss, ginger, cedar. Trying to. It's such a strange thing to try and take the physical aspects of what a place is and combine them with your sense of it, that you're near the water, but you've also got oak trees and deer and musk, and all of those things have combined to go into this. So that's what I'm wearing right now. So I'm absolutely mad about it.
A little touch of home. There was a little message that just came up and said there was a rumor that there might be a Jack Soho. Is that just a rumor?
Oh, that's a rumor. That's a great idea. I'd love to do that. Yeah, red light district in a bottle.
Tarts boudoir, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the whiff of Italian coffee coming in the side.
Lorna Mackay, who is my
I know her very well.
Yes, my partner at the Perfume Society. She says, "Is there a Jill? I mean, why is there no Jill? I know they're unisex, but
because I don't know any men called Jill, but I do know women called Jack. So when I was launching, because it comes in a Union Jack bag. Dylan Jones, the editor of GQ magazine, when I went to see him about publishing a diary about the A to Z of starting in a business as a complete novice, and he saw there was a Union Jack bag that it came in and the pillar box red packaging, and he said, have you sorted out a name yet? And I said, I'm still not sure. And he said, well, call it Jack. So because in Union Jack bags, you know, you're not trying to be French or
Oh,
trying to
really?
sound anything pretentious. So Jack it was.
Wow. So it was Dylan Jones that gave you the nod on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if I called something Jill now, then I don't know that male customers would assume that Jill might be a unisex perfume.
No, this is true. This is true. And of course, you know, in history, all perfumes were unisex. So we've just gone back to how it used to be once upon a time,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. You've often been quoted about saying that basically you just go around sticking your nose into everything.
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 Yeah.
I mean, do you get a lot of weird looks doing this?
Because I've done it for as long as I can remember, I don't notice. I mean, if somebody says, is there something wrong with the food, or then I'll realize that they've noticed that. But my wife and daughter have spent most of their lives with me, either feeling that they have to apologize or explain why I do this. My counter argument is that I don't know why everybody doesn't
do it. I do it all the time.
Because, you know, you get excited about what you look at or what you touch.
Yeah.
So if you smell something, to me, it's the way of knowing something in a way that beats everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what I love about it. And this is the thing that I find so... It's the real magic element of perfume for me, because you can look at something or feel something or touch something, and you can pontificate about whether you like it or change your mind about it or whatever. But you smell something, the synaptic leap in your brain is so short that it just hits on something immediately. So there's no time for somebody to go, well, I think it's all right. You either have a strong reaction for or against it. So for me, there's something incredibly honest and bracing and unequivocal about scent that I will champion it till the day that I don't breathe anymore.
Now, obviously, with social distancing, you are not going to be able to go and bury your nose in strangers' necks. How are you going to cope?
Well, you can. It's amazing what you can. I think because I've never drunk or smoked, I don't always need to be literally in somebody's neck to smell who they are. So you know, you can, even at a meter distance, you can still get a sense of somebody.
Yeah.
Something comes off them.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And what's the worst thing you've ever smelled?
The worst thing. Oh goodness me! I have to leave. I leave the room when cheese comes out. You know, if I eat food with other people, I will just politely say, I'm just going to disappear for 10 minutes, because the smell of cheese is literally like a cadaver. It's absolutely revolting.
Wow.
And chocolate comes a close second.
Wow. Do people accidentally serve you cheese and then you have to make your excuses?
No, I usually, get out of the way before it arrives, because you usually have forewarning. Your nose tells me that it's coming before anybody announces that it is.
Okay, fair enough. Wow. And do you think you have a super sensitive nose compared to most people you know?
I have a thing that was diagnosed 20 years ago, only officially, called misophonia, which is a extremely heightened sensitivity to sound. So if somebody eats toast or apples or crisps or anything like that, literally a red mist comes over me because it's so intolerable. And I found out from an ear, nose and throat specialist that that misophonia is directly related to your sense of smell. So it's, he said it's why you have such a heightened sense of smell.
Gosh,
so I don't know how you measure that, but I've smelt things that other people haven't smelt, and then they've gone, oh my God, yes, I smell it now, but I smelt it way before they have. So I don't know what that is.
That's extra. I've never heard of that, whatever it is.
Condition.
One of our readers, Stephen Matthews, a blogger, he says you have a love of shopping in French brocante. I
Yes.
think I can see probably some of the
Yes.
trophies behind you, actually.
I like dead people's things.
Like, I love dead people's things. How would you describe the scent of a brocante?
Oh, hypnotic, sexy. There's something about going, you know, antique junking, whatever you call it, that is so, the chase of it and the possibility of finding something and smelling something that has been around for longer than I've been alive is something that I've never. I was sitting at a dinner one night, and a woman next to me, I knew her name was Kath. That's as much as I knew, and she saw me smelling the table linen and the cutlery, and she said, "Oh, you have this really bad, don't you?" And I said, "What?" She said, "This addiction to old things or dead people's things or whatever you call it." And I said, how do you know? And she said, "No, because I have it and I recognize it." And I said, "What do you do?" And she said, "Oh, well, you know, I have a shop. Oh, I have a string of big business that sort of deals in this stuff." And I said, "Oh, what are they called?" She said, "Kath Kidston." And I said, "All right, okay." And she said that as far as she has discovered, this addiction to going on the hunt for all this stuff is more gripping than cocaine or heroin or anything. So, you know, I vouch for that. Except, you know, I'm in a state of good health, but as you can see, surrounded by dead people's things.
Well, in the very early days of Kath Kidston, she and I used to wrestle over pieces of fabric on a Friday morning under the flyover at Portobello, with me at one end and her at the other. And sometimes
I understand that.
It's the thrill of the chase, basically.
Yeah.
So acting-wise, tell us some of the other fragrances that your characters might have worn.
They're on. You know, you walk through any airport or any perfumery, and you can, you know, spot them. I've worn all sorts of different ones.
Right.
You know, accordingly, I can't give you an example, but what I personally wore before, from when I was a teenager until I came to live in England. So from the age of 15 to 25, I only wore Eau Sauvage by Christian Dior. Oh. You know, which is citrus, and I still think it's one of the great scents ever.
Yeah.
And then, because I was a waiter in Covent Garden, there was a perfumer called Penhaligon's.
Yes.
So, which was way out of my price range. Anyway, I saved up and then bought Blenheim bouquet from them, and I wore that from the age of 25 until I made my own scent. So I've only worn two others in my life, apart from the ones that I now have. Really? I've been very loyal.
Yeah, very.
But do you not find that most people they lock onto one scent and stay with that for their life?
Not our readers, I have to say. No, people who sign up to the Perfume Society are complete tarts when it comes to perfume. They can't wait to play around.
Good for them.
To do all of these things.
Good.
So no, we like to try lots of different things. I mean, we have some followers who have 600 perfumes, you know, and I know, it's amazing.
Wow.
Because I suppose, but you know, in some ways, I suppose for those of us who don't act for a living, putting on a perfume can be part of playing a role in our daily lives. You know, there are definitely
your invisible armor.
It's armor. Or it makes you stand a little bit taller, or it makes you feel a little bit sexier, or whatever. So it can be this amazing tool, I think, which obviously you've used that in your work. What did your wife wear before you?
Bluebell by Penhaligon's.
Again, yeah. So, I know Penhaligon's are watching. I've seen their name come up. So you never know. You might get one in the post. If they're feeling generous.
I bought so many bottles of Blenheim, and I've kept all the bottles, all the empty ones, because I'm a hoarder.
Oh wow! And so you've seen the design subtly change as well over the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who did the bottle and the design for Jack? I mean, we know Aliénor's worked on the fragrances, but who did the design? Was it in your head as well?
The Jack, the color of the box, and the Union Jack bag, all of that, and the bottle shape. I wanted something that was, that's the bottle shape that wasn't. I didn't have to get bespoke glass made and spend extra money on doing that. But I wanted something very simple, and so that was the closest that I found to exactly what I wanted. And then there was a brilliant graphic designer at Liberty who I worked with, and he created the Jack logo, which is the Jack with a split in it, and then Eau de Parfum made in Great Britain around it. So Matt Blees is his name. He's now gone freelance, and he was so collaborative and so helpful, and he came up with that simple J. And
of course, you've been on this entrepreneurial journey with your own daughter. She works alongside you. So
my business partner.
What's that been like?
Well, as I failed all my maths at school, and she managed to get GCSE maths when she was at school, she can do invoices that require a 10% discount for a retailer or whatever in a way that I couldn't, even saying those words is sort of like sending my brain into a spiral. And because we have no advertising budget whatsoever, Olivia is very, very smart about because she's 31, as opposed to my 63, about how to use social media to promote it.
Yeah.
So we work together, very, very well. We've never had an argument.
Is she locked down with you?
She has been, yes. She's just gone back to London.
Right, right. Well, there's tearful farewells on the doorstep.
For me, I think she was relieved. But for me, because it's an incredible. In the midst of all the horror of what COVID has been for people who've lost their loved ones, on the positive side, to be reunited with your grown-up child at the age of 31 for 3 months and to live at home together again is something that I will value and treasure for the rest of my breathing days, because it's not what was ever going to be on the cards. So I found that absolutely amazing.
I know lots of people who got their babies back that they weren't quite expecting, and have had the most magical, incredible time together, which hopefully, I mean, in future, all that will be going on holiday with somebody. We don't really ever want to be locked down again, but you have to find the silver lining where you can, I think.
Exactly.
So what else have you been doing? Have you been working on perfume at all? Do you have anything in the pipeline?
Yes. Well, I've just, as I said, Jack Richmond is just in the middle of the COVID, has come out. So I haven't done an official launch yet, but you can get it online on the jackperfume.co.uk website. And it's been sent to the boutiques where it sells in America, and Aspects of Beauty distribution company have also started rolling it out. But there's not a day that goes by that I'm not thinking of something. So the fact that somebody's already said Jack Soho sounds to me such a great idea, and so I'm whizzing around with that and thinking, how do I get all of that into a bottle?
It's a little catchier than Jack Morton in the Marsh, isn't it? It's
yes, yeah.
Which would be very nice, I'm sure, but perhaps not quite as thought-provoking as Jack Soho. Now, what do you still like to smell? If you walk past a stranger in the street, can you recognise other people's perfumes? And do you ever encounter somebody wearing one of yours, and do you get tempted to kind of literally say, by the way, you're wearing my perfume?
I've had one encounter. I was in a lift in London, and I thought, my God, this is it possible? Somebody's actually wearing one of my scents, and that was a huge thrill because I was standing behind them, and I had to really stop myself from saying, I know what you're wearing because I made that, because I thought it would be far too intrusive. But that was a huge thrill because I thought somebody, because it's a bit like, you know, when you do a movie or TV thing and you do it and then it comes out a year later, I have no, if I get tweets or messages from people say, oh, I saw this, but until somebody actually says, I've seen this, or you watch them seeing something, there's a part of my brain, I think is very common to actors, where you don't actually believe that anybody's seen it. So being in this lift and knowing this person had actually bought the thing, I thought, wow, somebody's actually spent money to go and do this. And I was really thrilled by that.
That's very exciting. What, of course, we all followed you on your Oscar journey and your awards journey. We were rooting, and your unalloyed joy throughout that entire process was just, you know, you didn't try and be cool. You just went, this is amazing. I'm just going to lap up every second of this.
Well, why not?
Why not? No, I know, absolutely, why not? But which of your own fragrances did you wear for the different ceremonies, or was it the same one? And which one was it?
I alternated between Jack, the original one with the marijuana as a top note, and Jack Piccadilly 69. Between those two, because it was winter in Los Angeles and in New York, I thought that they seemed to fit more than the more floral, heady notes of Covent Garden. So those are the two that I alternated with. But my wife now wears Covent Garden all the time. So
oh, brilliant!
I was, you know, it's always around me.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you've gone into candles, and so what's been the different? I know that candles technically are actually much harder than creating a fragrance. So tell us a little bit about your candle journey.
Well, it took, again, I went for advice from my great mentor, the Wizard of Scent, Roger Dove, and he put me in touch with a candle factory called Stone Glow in the east of London, and Catherine Mitchell at IFF worked tirelessly to get the wax combination with the oil so that it would smell exactly like what you spray. And that I had no idea that it was so complicated to do. So how that is technically achieved, I have no idea, but it's just goblins, wizard and magic to me, but they've done it. And so Stone Glow have then produced the candles, and they're all hand poured, and you know, all the cellophane is all done by hand. So, and I had to pay extra because it always drove me up the wall that when you, in my experience of buying candles, it could, you know, very expensive ones, sometimes the wick would come loose from the base, so that you get halfway down and then, you know, you couldn't do anything. So when I spoke to Stone Glow about this, they said, oh, you have to pay extra to have them hand glued to the base of the candle, then they will not come.
But you know, those things are so important, because I mean, if I buy a scented candle from a company and it disappoints me, if it tunnels down the middle, or it never really gets going, then you never buy another one. So
I never buy another one, and I didn't want, I just did not want any customer, because I have such a hands-on, one-to-one relationship with people via Twitter and Instagram, that if they complained about the fact that the wick was going haywire, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night properly. So I thought, well, if you think of the customer as exactly how I am as a buyer, I don't want to be messed about with. So,
but I think that that's probably part of the success of your business. You know, putting yourself in your customer's shoes is is just the best place to be. You don't need a focus group. You just need to be able to imagine. And maybe as an actor, you have a better understanding of how other people would feel, you know, if you were in their shoes. That is a possibility to me. But
well, you don't want to be ripped off, because
no,
I had a stand at the House and Garden Spirit of Christmas fairs at Olympia for about 5 years running, and then stopped a couple of years ago. I would meet customers, you know, firsthand, and the first year I was there in 2014, I got this stand, literally, there was a cancellation at the last minute. It was 1 meter by 1 meter, tiny. It's filled with my Jack stock, and didn't even have a candle. I had one product, and literally sold more than I could ever have imagined. But when I did test sprays on people, they'd say, you know, that amount of money for a new scent, we're going to give it a road test to see how long it lasts. And they would come back after shopping round, you know, 500-600 stands.
yeah.
They'd come back 4 hours later and say, this is still on here and it hasn't disappeared. The ingredients must be good. We'll buy a bottle. So it proved itself by not being something that has this great hit after, you know, the first half hour, and then you struggle to smell it again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, patchouli will do that for you every time. You know, you can smell patchouli days later, actually. One of the reasons I love it. So about being an entrepreneur, what have you learned? I mean, setting up a business, you know, we have lots of small fragrance brands that follow us and are probably watching now. But what have been your big business lessons? What have been the things that have surprised you in business?
The thing that surprised me the most was that Anya Heinmarsh, God bless her, she said to me, whatever you do, and everybody that I met who was in her contact list of people that I got advice from said, do not invest your own money.
Yeah.
And I spoke to my accountant, because I had no investors and no track record of this. So I spoke to my accountant and I said, how much would I have saved by not drinking or smoking for the last 40 years? He gave me a figure and I said, that is what I'm going to invest in my business. He said, you're insane. He said, you're a 56-year-old man releasing a perfume. It's the equivalent of some 56-year-old guy saying, oh, I'm going to release a pop record. As there are 1,200 scents, you know, commercially launched every year. He said, you do not stand hope in hell. And I then held on to what Anya had said to me, that she said, what you can't fake is passion for something. Yeah. And if you personally believe in something wholeheartedly and you're putting yourself on the front line of that, and you really believe in it, what have you got to lose? She said, at worst, you could have a room in your house with so many thousands of bottles that nobody wants, that you can then give away to people and go, well, at least I tried. And that's how I went into it. So the fact that within 6 months it was nominated for awards and became a bestseller at Liberty, where it was exclusively launched, and then went into profit, is so beyond anything that I could have imagined. And I've ploughed whatever I've earned out of it into developing and creating new scents. So it's a real passion, you know, to do it. It's not, I mean, there's no, you know, I have no bus advertising or in the tube or any of that kind of stuff or commercial. I just don't have the money for that.
No, but you only have to spend 2 seconds with you to realize that this is not just some actor sitting down thinking, oh, this is the next string to my bow. This is born of a long life of sticking your nose in people's armpits and their flowers and their gardens and all of that stuff, you know.
It's true.
And you did win. I think it was the initial fragrance that immediately scooped a Fragrance Foundation award.
It did, yeah.
Which you probably didn't even know there was such a thing when
I didn't.
You launched the fragrance. So how did that feel?
As I had, prior to what happened last year with all these Oscar and BAFTA and Golden Globe nominations and an acting job, I had never won a prize for anything. So when I got this message from the Perfume Society saying, you have been nominated for, will you put your fragrance forward for eligibility to be nominated? I said, well, yeah, don't send hope in hell. And they said, no, encourage me, go ahead and do it. And then when it was called out on the night, it felt an out-of-body experience, because I thought, this has been chosen from something that has been a sort of lifelong passion of mine, and I couldn't really believe that it was happening. So it's something that I feel so thrilled about, and so it's pride of place on my desk. It's beautiful, elite class award.
And do you run the business from home, basically? Do you have a Jack office, or it's in the spare room?
Yeah, literally. I have a study, and my laptop, and all scents around me, and always new scent combinations and ideas on the go. So that's how it's done.
Just before lockdown, were you working on anything acting wise? I mean, did you have to stop anything?
Yes, I'm in the middle of a Disney Plus series starring Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and which is an offshoot from the Thor Marvel series. So that's shooting at Pinewood Studios in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was due to go there, and I was supposed to be there through May, and so that's on lockdown, and I think it's mooted to restart later this year, but I don't know when.
No. So I mean, there is such huge uncertainty about acting, and about I mean, there's been very little support, as you very graphically put a particular Instagram up about the amount that different governments have given to the arts in different countries, and there's been absolutely no support in the UK whatsoever for the arts at this very difficult time. Is that something you feel really strongly about? Sorry, we're not really getting political here, but it is.
No. Of course,
relevant.
I feel passionately about it, because the majority of actors, it's a struggle to get work in the first place. I think the unemployment rate is enormous. But now, as myself included, we're all self-employed, to have no prospect of income or no furlough, that is, I've been lucky that I have earned well in my last 30 years, but I have many friends and a huge number of people that I know by proxy that are really struggling. And that's very disheartening, because the one thing that people have done during lockdown, as we know from the viewing figures, is watch stuff online. So the need to be entertained is, that hasn't gone away.
No, I can't help feeling that there's going to be this kind of creative lag, where there's going to be a Netflix and an iPlayer fallow period because of this time when nothing has been no content has been being produced, basically.
I don't know how that'll roll out, but it's a huge concern.
So, and it's not like actors who can go off and waiter in Tuttons during this difficult time to kind of make up their. So what kind of waiter were you actually?
I was a very good waiter, because they told me I didn't drink, I didn't steal.
Okay.
So because there were a lot of people that stole booze or drank on the job. So those two things ensured that you were an employable waiter. So,
right.
And my father was very insistent that you had to be, he said, manners make the man. And I thought that was so old-fashioned and sort of, bourgeois and ridiculous. But the wisdom of that has stood me in good stead in my life, because it doesn't really cost you anything to be polite and considerate. No. And, so I think that helped me enormously.
Yeah, no. Well, I think anyone who knows you would say that you have marvelous manners, and you're
thank you.
Proper gentleman. And when you were waiting on people? Were you sort of being an actor as were you being an actor, literally being an actor, but also were you playing a role when you were waiting?
I think that, whether you're officially an actor or not, every situation that a person is in, you will know this, you take on a role of something. So having to keep your mouth shut when people started complaining about things or trying not to pay the bill or got really drunk or abusive, all of those things, you have to, dig deep and go, well, I know what I'm earning per hour and I'd like to pick up this plate of food and shove it in your face. But if I do that, I'll be fired instantly. Or drop the soup. Oh, John Cleese came into Tutton's when I was working there, and all the other waiters and waitresses said to me, for God's sake, he ordered soup. He was about to go to the theatre. And they said, tip it into his lap so that we can have a Basil Fawlty explosion. And I said, of course I can't do that. And I subsequently met him once I'd become, succeeded in being an actor. I met him in Barbados, and he said, "Oh, you should have done that." But anyway, I didn't.
Because you've got much too good manners, basically.
No, I was too fearful of being unemployed.
So let's just see if there's anything that we haven't got here that we can ask you. Is there? So it's an acting question, as we're on acting. Is there a role that you absolutely would love to play?
Well, any actor will tell you this, I'm sure, but the role that I had always wanted to play was Hamlet. So the only time I got to do any of it was one soliloquy, which was the final speech that ended Withnail and I, which was made in 1986, which is 33, 86, 80, 34. See, I've got my maths. 34 years ago. So that's as close as I got. I just did one speech of it. So no, and I was never asked. I never had the opportunity to play the Dane.
Oh dear. And anything else? I mean, anything on telly that anything you'd love to do for telly?
Oh, there are all sorts of things I'd like to do. I think that not being asked to repeat the same role is always a bonus. So I've had a pretty varied career of things that I've been asked to do, and the thing that I'm doing in Loki is again different from anything that I've been cast in before. So I'm very excited about that. And I have a film that's now been delayed. It was supposed to come out in October. It's a film version of a musical will continue running in the West End when it reopens, called Everybody's Talking About Jamie, which is based on a true story about the 16-year-old kid who went to the prom in a prom dress in Sheffield. No, not in Sheffield, but the film is set in Sheffield. And I play an old drag queen in that, and it comes out on the 22nd of January worldwide. But that was about the most challenging thing that I've ever had to do, because I was so petrified that I couldn't pull off being a believable drag artist. Right. So I watched 11 series of RuPaul's Drag Race in 3 weeks, which is dedicated viewing. And the sheer chutzpah and bravery of these guys who, against all the odds, become successful drag artists is something that I will never forget. And also just the inconvenience of being trussed up like that. Couldn't go to the loo for 18 hours. So I used to take sips through a straw when I was in the full drag kit. But I was only in the drag for a relatively short amount of time, the shooting. But that was an amazing experience.
I once interviewed Barry Humphries in his dressing room as he got ready to become Edna Everage. And he was Barry till he put the tights on. And then he became Edna. And it was literally a momentary switch, and he was Edna, and it was just the most extraordinary thing to watch. Now, what perfume did you wear for that role, please?
I wore a woman's perfume, because I thought that this the drag character is called Loco Chanel. So I thought, well, in homage to the fact that the originator of this role was called the drag character is called Loco Chanel, I would have to wear the classic, you know, what do you wear, Marilyn Monroe, in bed? Chanel number 5.
Number
So
5.
That's what I used.
And how does it smell on you?
Well, when I was in the full drag gear, the combination of the hairspray and the makeup and the nails and all of that, it was Chanel number 5 had some stiff competition from all the olfactory stuff going on around me.
So if you're walking down the street now, I bet you often smell something that reminds you of that role, because there's still a lot of that around. Yeah,
there is.
Yeah,
this is true.
Yeah, still one of the greatest fragrances ever created, I think.
Absolutely. The most beautiful bottle.
Most beautiful bottle. What else would you say? I mean, have you learnt a lot about fragrance on this journey? You only wore 2 before.
Yes.
But have you learned a lot about other brands' fragrances? And do you spend a lot of time going around sniffing in perfumeries?
The thing that I found most dispiriting is that when, and I have to be careful what I say here, but often when very big brands, and you will know who they are, release a new scent, it lacks to me a kind of personality or individuality. It seems like I don't know whether it's been created by a focus group or a corporate group. I don't know, but it doesn't have the stamp of a passion project or a niche project. So
or bravery.
So I'm much more interested in the ones that aren't all the obvious recognizable.
Yeah. The kind of fragrances you would find alongside yours in Liberty, probably, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a little bit of a delay. We've had such a good connection all the way, and just a little bit of delay on that. Yes, I mean, I think that a lot with a lot of the major launches, everyone has their sixpence worth, and you end up with something that's not as daring, perhaps. And you know, when you're wanting to launch a new one, who's your test panel? I mean, is it the wife and Olivia? You know.
Yes, I've tried it out. I blind tested friends, and I took inspiration from a book of essays by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink, in which one of the essays was about how easily people are influenced by everybody around them. So there was an essay about a musician being interviewed for as a cellist for, I think, the Berlin Philharmonic, and the person was screened from the people judging, and she was chosen, this female musician, and she was very diminutive, and the predominantly male panel refused to believe that a woman could have produced that sound. And I know that, because I've done this, if you have a table full of your friends and you say, what do you think of this scent? Even without speaking, somebody just needs to go make some reaction. Somebody will pick that up, and that has a knock-on effect of a group response. So I've always done it so that
one at a time.
You do people one at a time, and you don't ask them to say anything, just to write down what they think. And if there's something that is a common denominator that keeps coming up, saying there's something here that I don't like, then I've addressed that. But for the most part, I've literally done it off what I like to smell. So, and I understand perfectly that, you know, there are people that's, as in your opinion about everything. There are some actors that you mention their names, and they, oh my God, I'd, cross, the fourth bridge to never watch them in anything. and there are others that you go, I would cross the Himalayas to go and see them in something.
Well,
so I
I'm
think
going
it's
to
the
have
same
a
with
stop
scent.
you, because we would all cross the Himalayas to come and see
Thank you.
but we have exactly 36 seconds remaining.
Okay.
It's gone in a flash, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been really, really fun. At the Perfume Society, we love you. We love your perfumes. We've had amazing number of viewers for this, and keep on your fragrant journey. And we're longing for Jack Soho, I tell you.
Okay.
But
watch this space.
Lots and lots of love.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye-bye.